This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description. Hello and welcome everyone to our 203rd session of HalloCasa. My name is Michael and today I'm talking to Jemila Winsey from Houston in Texas. Jemila is a powerhouse in real estate leadership. She's vice president of the US Brokerage Operations at REAX, co-founder of one of the top Black-owned brokerages in the country, and creator of the system Broke to Book. With over $2 billion in USD in closed production and 2 decades of experience across residential, commercial, and corporate leadership, Jemila has built her reputation on scaling with purpose. Her core belief: you don't grow by doing more, you grow by leading better. From transforming brokerage operations across multiple states to architecting systems that allow agents to scale without burnout, Jemila has consistently blended high-level strategy with real-world execution. Her leadership style focuses on retention over recruitment, systems over chaos, and vision over micromanagement principles that have earned her national recognition and executive board positions with Texas Realtors and beyond. Whether you're building a brokerage, launching a startup, or navigating leadership at scale, this episode is packed with insights, strategy, and inspiration from a woman who's not just moved the industry forward, but redefined how we lead within it. Jemila, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really honored to have you on the show. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience in your own words?
I don't know if I can do any better than that. But no, as you said, my name is Jemila Winsey. I think one thing a lot of people don't know about me is I did not grow up in the United States. How about I introduce myself from there? I think you've more than covered my professional background, but I grew up in a not small, grew up in a third world country in Lagos, Nigeria, which is in West Africa. And that's really where I started my entrepreneurship journey. My mother, God rest her soul, she passed away a couple years ago. She owned her own retail store. And after school, I would go there to work and negotiate with the vendors. So I learned negotiation at the age of 14. And let's just say I've just been hooked ever since on what it takes to really build a successful business. Fast forward, there was a lot of political unrest in my country, and my father basically scraped everything that he owned to send my sister and I to this country, and that's how our lives started here. So for a while, I was homeless and trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I said a prayer to God: when you're at the bottom of everything, there's only one place to go but up. And I said, we get out of here, you take me to where I feel you are leading me. And my promise is that I'll never forget it. And every opportunity I get to pull somebody up, I will do it. And my steps have been ordered, and now I'm here as well. So
What happened when you were, let's say, rock bottom in the early days, basically? What made you then take the next step? And what was also maybe the decision-making process? What did you do?
it's crazy. And hitting rock bottom happens in many stages of your life. Obviously, my first time I was pregnant, and I knew that I did not want to bring my child into a world where there was going to be too much struggle. So that was my biggest why. I remember sitting in those daily pay motels where I had just enough money not to sleep in my car and I could pay for a shower. I don't know, I started praying, and I got up that day and I went to this luxury apartment, right? I knew I couldn't afford to be there. And I just sat in their clubhouse for a little bit. And I walked up to the lady and I said, "Hey, what's it going to take to get an apartment here?" She said, "By the way, we're running a special, and you don't have to pay anything today, and we'll give you 1 month for free." And I took it and got the apartment, and I had no idea how I was going to pay for it, but I knew I had 1 month to figure it out. And that was when I decided to start designing my life. And I did enough research to find out where I could go to school for almost nothing. And I got a certificate in accounting and finance. And then I started working 4 jobs because I needed to pay for that apartment that I could not afford. My life changed there. That was my first rock bottom. And you know what? Month one came, I had the rent. The second month came, I had the rent. And by the time it was over, 6 months later, I finished my certification, which was really like they send you all these books because we didn't have computers back then. And then I ended up getting a job, and that really started something in me. So that was pre my entrepreneurial side. At that point, I was just trying to eat. I hadn't even thought about opening up a business or anything like that. It would parlay to something like that eventually, though.
You were then between a bit like accounting, finance, but then you also got very early on touched with real estate.
Yeah.
What was there the angle?
Yeah, so fast forward, living a very simple life. I always knew that my life was meant for more. I just didn't know what. I never understood real estate. I never owned real estate, but I remember one day I was up late and I was watching an infomercial. I'm starting to date myself there. Just to watch infomercials. And then there was a guy that he was selling this real estate program on how to buy real estate with no money down. And I don't, on a whim, it was just like, just get it. And I got it. And the reason why I did that is because I was bored and I knew that I didn't really like where I was from a corporate standpoint. And so I bought the book, I read through the program, and I started executing. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of people get into wanting and wishing. It is important. Execution is everything. And you have to execute at speed, with speed. If you don't do it now, you'll never do it. And so I just went out there and I bought my first property with no money down. I think I was in my early 20s. And I was going, oh, this was not easy, but I liked it. It made me feel powerful coming from a country where you couldn't even buy real estate. It took everything. And for women in my previous country, we were definitely not people that you saw as strong business people. And let's just say, fast forward a few years later, I think I was 26. I had over $1 million in property that I own. Actually, no, more like three. I own 26 properties and I bought everything with no money down. And so I got really good at just putting deals together creatively. And my friends started to see that and they asked me to help them with it. And I said, sure, I'll do it for you. And they would always kick me back something. And I have one of my friends who turned out to be an attorney. He said, Jamila, you're practicing real estate without a license. I had no idea. And so that was really what prompted me to get my real estate license. And then I fell in love with the business of real estate as well. So all this while I was really thriving in the corporate world and climbing this ladder, but I was also building this other life, what I considered my retirement, what I considered my empire. I had no idea that at some point those two would merge into what it is today.
The idea was basically only creating your passive income with real estate portfolio while doing career on the corporate ladder. You have been working from 2020 to 2025 with Era, like the boutique arm of it, correct? And you were leading the growth before you leaped into your own entrepreneurship. How did it help you to basically get prepared and maybe this element there so that you were really also mentally ready to go and start your entrepreneurial journey?
You know what? It's crazy. So I actually started my real estate business after I got my real estate license. I decided to leave the corporate world. And that was, oof, I don't know, 12 years ago, like full time. And I started my own real estate brokerage, my husband and I. We purchased one of the largest franchises in the country and which is a REMAX. So we owned a few locations here in Houston. We purchased our first one because we've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, and we thought that if it was time for us to scale this tiny business that we had, we would buy a franchise. And we purchased it, and within 5 years had grown it to about four locations and just a handful of 100 of agents. And we started with 8 agents. And within a couple of years, we were one of the top 1.5 brokerages in the country. And then our fifth year, we became the number 3 real estate company in the US on the Inc. 5000 list. And we racked up a whole bunch of all the other awards. Like we have, I, I always laugh. I was like, I don't have any more room. And it's not to brag. It's just to say we went gung ho. We gave up everything and burned our boats. And it wasn't easy. And then after our REMAX contract was over, we purchased ERA, which is what you just mentioned. So we actually owned that as well. And until last year when I sold my shares to my husband and his partners and took on this current role with so coming back to corporate, but now as a real estate executive and technology, with my technology background, which is where I used to be, serving at a higher purpose, challenging myself in ways that I have never really been challenged before. And so my husband and his partners own ERA and most recently just merged it with another company.
And the REMAX brokerage, you just left it, or was there a certain
Oh,
reason for
we
that?
didn't
I
leave it.
mean,
We decided to change. So I think about it like changing flags. We decided to take our what we built and move it over to ERA.
so
So
so you could basically also use the entire team which you had and internal processes
yeah,
which you
yeah. If
created.
you think about exactly, it's like going from McDonald's to Burger King or Burger King to McDonald's, but still everything's the same. Same brokerage, which is Legacy Living, is the name of our company. Legacy Living Real Estate was the name of the company that we had all our agents and work in all combined. So it was, if you think about it, Remax Legacy Living, ERA Legacy Living. That's so yeah.
Now tell us about Real.
Real is a new journey for me, a way to reinvent myself and really to provide service at a larger impact. It's the fifth largest brokerage in the country. I am very fortunate to serve as one of their VPs of US operations. And what I do is I manage and run 18 of their fastest growing states across the country. So it's taking everything that I've done in brokerage and 10x in it in a way to be able to impact and lead several brokers and agents across the country. My organization currently supports about 14,000 agents and almost 50 brokers.
I know EXP, is that sort of the same, let's
Pretty
say.
similar model. Yes, yes, yeah, pretty similar model.
Yeah, so you
But
get basically rid of the overheads regarding real estate, like the office spaces. You make everything remote and you do a lot via Zoom, whatsoever, and digitally, and you empower the agents in a way.
yeah, and it's one of I believe I always tell myself I'm lucky to wake up to work with very smart people every day. It's a very innovative, tech-focused company and and very agent obsessed. We care deeply about our agents. And it's a company that really empowers our agents to be entrepreneurs, which is a vision that I've always aligned with when I owned my own company.
How do you make sure that you are managing 14,000 people? I assume you don't manage them on a
No, not
one-by-one
directly.
basis. But what for processes have you created? Because you're so involved in the operations, so you also define the operations and the processes. What is basically your approach?
I'm very systems focused. So not directly. We do have brokers in each state. And I will pause to say that most of my anything I'm saying right now is I'm not speaking on behalf of Real, but in terms of just taking processes, systems, streamlining communications, and ensuring that brokers are aligned with the objectives. And then it's really about supporting them to make sure that they're able to support the agents. With the tools that we provide and things like that, we are able to provide a lot of those types of support to the brokers so they can do their jobs by supporting the agents. And so obviously, yeah, there's a lot of process creation, policies, and things like that have to happen as well.
Talking about leadership, you are now just mentioning processes and systems. This sounds like right off the MBA book. But I'm quite sure that there's more to it, and
Oh, absolutely.
you have some implicit leadership skills which are not found in any MBA book. How do you empower your team? Because you say on the one hand, we want to make sure that they feel as their own entrepreneurs, because maybe you say if they do that, they feel it's their business and everyone gives the best for their own business, for their own calling. Is there a certain underlying reason or a certain way for you to make sure that you are not thinking opportunistically in order to make the double or triple bottom line as big as possible, but you make sure that you really lead by with your heart and with your good gut feeling?
No, you're absolutely right. As it comes to leadership, my leadership style, I don't believe that you can't lead if you never followed first. I think it goes without saying. If you don't know how to follow, you'll never know how to lead. I have a very collaborative leadership style, and it's very important when I have an opportunity to lead to understand, A, how much influence do I have in this current opportunity, in this current situation? Because you also can't lead without influence, because you need influence to be able to inspire. And when I'm in a situation or in a position where I'm leading for the first time, or these groups of people are meeting me for the first time, it's important to know that I am not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to inspire you to do what you need to do and should do because we're all on the same mission. When thinking about vision, I'm thinking about it from the standpoint as I know where we need to go because, again, as the leader, that's been set. Not, maybe not by me, but as a collective, there's a vision on play. And so the responsibility then stands to how do we get you to help implement the tasks to help us to get to that vision, right? And I feel like if you're a lot more collaborative, you can activate inspiration. And so, especially when you're working with entrepreneurs or you're working with other leaders as well, it's one thing to just lead a pack of people, it's another thing to lead leaders. And it's a different level of communication, it's a different level of that of collaboration. And I believe in hearing people's ideas and allowing it to spark their inspiration. I believe in allowing them to arrive at things with me just guiding and steering the ship. Now, don't get me wrong. There are situations where you have to use that velvet glove because you have to do that. And that is absolutely not an issue. But it should not be the norm. It really should be the exception. If people are inspired and they feel like I'm part of something bigger, and I trust the person in front of us, in front of me, in front of us to steer the ship, I will walk through fire for them. And that has always been the case, even through my entrepreneurial journey, through hiring employees, leading agents that don't really have to listen to you. The agents in the US are 1099, which means they're all entrepreneurs. That means they're all leaders. For you to take somebody like that and say, hey, do this. I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to show up to this meeting. I don't have to do these hours. But the fact that they do, it lets you know that you've activated the inspiration and the motivation in them to do this without you having to ask them. And that was the secret, not so secret sauce, right? To taking an agent from zero to $500,000 in a couple of years. And so that's really my style of leadership. It's not a tell you what to do. And I love to adapt to people's nature. I need to know who you are so I can adapt to that versus you adapting to me. I think that's super important as well when leading people and getting them to do what they need to do to fulfill the mission.
And this boils down to a proper selection process and hiring process, I believe, to say,
Mhm.
listen, we need to vet the person who we onboard, and we need to make sure that they know what they're getting into. And is that maybe like your one of the biggest focus you have to say, we are in a hustle world, unfortunately or fortunately,
Yes,
whatever.
it
It
is.
is for the hype. It is for the ones who don't complain after 18 hours or there's a showing on a Saturday morning. That's the
That's the
DNA
world we
of real
live in.
estate.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. When interviewing, let's just go back to brokerage ownership. When interviewing agents, I'm not looking for the most productive agent. I mean, I'd like them to come over, but they're not the ones we were looking for. We were looking for people we had who had that entrepreneurial mindset, but needed guidance, needed the blueprint, and was willing to roll their sleeves up. The words I hate is that's not my job. It's when you use those words with me, I automatically cringe. When we first opened up our brokerage, we were cleaning the toilets, and because at that time we put a lot of money there, and we needed like a couple of months to hire a full-time cleaning staff. So we got up every Sunday and we went and cleaned the entire office. That's the kind of leadership where we're going to do what it takes. And the people around you feel like they're going to do the same thing too, right? They show up for you, period, when you show up for them the right way. And even today in hiring leaders of states, we're looking for people. I always look for people that have that same entrepreneurial mindset, that want to help people. It's not about me, it's about we. And so my questions are always geared around that to get to understand who they are as a person, even before we get into the technical side of an interview, right? So
Let's frankly talk about reality. You're a black alpha woman, if I may say so, and I hope I'm not politically incorrect. I don't know. I'm not good at
what did you
this.
say?
So
I'm
please.
sorry.
You're a black alpha woman. So your leadership position, you're a hustler. And if you talk and if you are operating on a daily basis, what are you faced with? Because obviously I'm a white male. For me, my reality on a daily basis looks totally different than yours. Are you facing obstacles and limitations and the boys' clubs and saying, listen, lady, step back?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it is a challenge, and it's a different type of challenge that only someone that looks like me would understand. But I walk into rooms on a daily basis where I'm the only one that looks like me, a Black woman, and it takes a lot of fearlessness. As you can see my background here, I don't think you can see it, but that's kind of what it spells there. But it takes a lot of fearlessness to really operate and push past certain boundaries that are put in front of you. I grew up in a country where everybody looked like me. So I didn't have a reason to believe that I didn't deserve to be in the rooms that I was in. Although you have to prove yourself, you have to do things better than the person next to you. You have to operate at a higher level than the person next to you that doesn't look like you. You have to stand out. It is harder to do that if it's harder to do that without having to keep these things in mind, because people are going to judge you by what you look like before you even open up your mouth, period. And that's just life. Bias exists everywhere. And although I don't operate my personal operating principles have nothing to do with race. It's not anything near there. And what I mean by that is I don't pull a race card, period, because I believe that my qualifications, my skills, my knowledge, the fact that I have been through all facets of this business and this industry qualifies me to be in the room. So yeah, I hold my head high. And by the time we're done with that conversation, that respect is there. Sometimes you just meet people who are just mean, and that's just who they are. I don't want to ever associate with people like that. But for the most part, and no, for the most part, it's really important to know for anyone who's listening to this that is asking that question, am I good enough? Will they respect me? I don't care. I'm here for a reason. I was placed here for a reason. I am going to make myself known. I'm going to take up space because I deserve to take up space. I'm going to eat from the table because I deserve to eat from the table. I worked hard for it and I earned it. And that's my mindset. It sounds very lofty, but it's not easy to do. But if I have to operate from that standpoint.
You basically mention between the lines elements like projection. You can project your inner insecurities, whatever it is, the short guy, the too tall guy, whatever it is, and fall into a certain insecurity or self-belief of not being enough or being less than whoever. And just not having that and saying, listen, like, why would you even, I have this normal self-confidence and I'm just here as much as everyone else. And there's so many people being held back, both in the corporate world, but also in the entrepreneurial world, to say, hey, we go into a manifestation level and don't pedestalize anything or anyone. And therefore I make my millions with, as you as a role model in my 20s. Fearlessness. I think about this a lot, to be honest. On the one hand, we have fear, and on the other hand, we have confidence, trust, courage, maybe even love. And when deciding and taking like bigger decisions and acting and going for something, there's this saying, it's like whenever you act out of fear, it's always wrong. And whenever you act out of courage and confidence, it should actually be the way to go. Why did you put this up there?
It's always to remind me that even though you're afraid, you still have to do it if it's what you need to do. I don't believe it's fear is a motivator, and sometimes we just go into things scared. And what pushes you down the road is faith, really. But the truth is, fear never really dissipates and it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be an entrepreneur or you could be an employee somewhere else. There's always a fear that you're going to wake up one day and everything's gone. And that's a huge motivator, but you can be paralyzed by it. And so I realized throughout my life that I've done a lot of things while being afraid, but doing it anyway. I remember the first time I left the corporate world, I was climbing a ladder. If I had stayed, I don't know where I'd be today, but definitely not a bad place. I was promoted maybe 8 times in less than 5 years. And so just pushing forward and questioning the status quo, providing value as much as I could, and really propelled me into leadership even at that level. But it's the fearlessness of asking and talking and talking, asking the right questions and proposing solutions that propel the company that I worked for forward. But I also remember that it was time for me to focus on my real estate career full time, and I knew I couldn't do both anymore. Not the way that I wanted to grow it. But it was a really good job. And it would have changed my family's life if it did anyway. And it was important for me to jump because my need for security was crippling me. And when the need for when you have to do the things that you have to do, it really overtakes that need for security. And I knew that it was a huge decision. And yeah, I jumped, very fearful, and had plenty of reasons to want to go back, especially on that entrepreneurial journey when things were just so shaky. 19, we thought we were going to go straight out of business. We grew bigger than we ever thought. Those days where the buck stops with you. We didn't do enough in production this month, and you have to go find the money, or the cash flow's low, or you lost a very big producing agent. All those instills, there's always fear with it, but you have to do it scared because you have to do it. And that's the reason why I have fearless. I'm surrounded by things that remind me to be fearless.
What is your tip to aspiring entrepreneurs who are still in a corporate job and say, yeah, I don't know. Like, I know that's my calling. I am quite confident that I can make money with it, but I don't really know yet. But I also do like my Friday evenings, my Saturdays, my Sundays,
Yeah.
and like everything is fun. You don't have to worry much while changing the status quo. What is your advice when you talk to maybe a younger generation, like now in their 20s?
Actually, the younger generations are a lot more courageous than we are. They'll just go start something because they don't like the 9 to 5. And I say this because I have two 20-something-year-old young men now. But in My advice is you can't look at your corporate job and look at it as something bad because depending on what you're doing, if you do have an entrepreneurial mindset, you can apply it anywhere, your corporate job or going out and doing or starting a business. Starting a business isn't for everyone because it requires sacrifice. So that's the first question is, do you enjoy what you're doing? Are you miserable in what you're doing? Everybody sees the life of an entrepreneur as sexy. It's not. There are nights where you're not working 9 to 5. You're losing your weekends, especially in real estate. You're working 60 to 70 hours a week. Most agents are. You do get to a point in your business where you don't have to if you build the right systems, have the right blueprint, and really focus on the things, the money making activities. You don't have to, you may not have to work that, but it takes a while, it takes a lot of focus, it takes a lot of discipline, but it is very possible because I've done it, right? And so if you're wanting to start your own business and you're working a corporate job, you have to come up with a plan. If your corporate job is something that feeds your family, takes care of you, don't give it up. Don't do what I did. Some people don't do what I did. It was not very smart. Actually, no, let me take that back. Let me take that back. Actually, do what I did because I didn't just quit my job when I started the real estate business. I stayed in it for a while. I just continued to build my real estate business, and that took a lot of focus. During lunchtime, I didn't go to lunch or do the happy hours. During lunchtime, I sat in my car and I prospected. And then in the evening, I went on listing appointments and then I went on buyer appointments. And then I got to a point where I had enough money come from my real estate business that I went into consulting. That way, I could pick and choose the hours that I worked. So I would work 6 months on and 6 months off, which allowed me to travel because I also wanted to travel. So I added that to the bucket. But those are the sacrifices that I made. And when it was time to really get that money and put that money in the savings account and buy a franchise and so on and so forth, then it was time for me to quit. Because again, that's where I wanted to be. So the first thing you want to do is define where you want to be, define why you want to do it, and put a roadmap together. But what is going to motivate you to get here is the fact that you want to get out of the situation because you don't like it. But if you have a job that you love, but you want to do something else, figure out what that is because it's not impossible to do both, period. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend who's a medical doctor. He's never going to stop being a doctor. He works for a hospital, he's got a full-time job, so on and so forth. His passion, though, is in building schools in Africa. So he started a company where they would go on these trips, and every time they go build a school, that business makes him a ton of money and he gives a ton of money away. But because he has this job as a doctor, he gets to do what he wants to do from a passion perspective.
Running your own brokerage, what do you think is like the secret sauce to make this successful, especially like over the years?
Showing up every day. No, seriously, I know that sounds very cliche. I am very passionate about real estate. I know that I was born to do this. I started this ever since I was a baby. Working where I work today, thankfully, it still keeps me in the real estate space. If not, it wouldn't have been, it would have been a non-starter for me. And I mentored and took care of agents that would walk through my doors completely broken with no money and no plan. And it was my job to take them from zero to where they aspired to be. And not everybody made it, obviously, because you can lead to water, but if you don't drink, then that's nothing you can do about it. But the ones that did, the ones that did and got into created space for them in this industry and who have become leaders, who have been fortunate to lead, seeing that light go off in their head, seeing their lives change over the years was huge for me because it was what I promised God I wanted to do when I had absolutely nothing. And so I think it's important to note that I get up every day to do what I do because I know that it's my calling. I know that I wouldn't do anything else. And so because of that, I put everything in it and showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. There are times in my life where life just got super difficult, and I would always try to figure out. For example, I was going through something really hard, and I was getting ready to do a sales meeting, and I told myself, I said, I have nothing inspirational to share. I need somebody to encourage me, but it's my job to still get these soldiers out there to get their work done, right? And I don't know where it came from, but I had to find it. So yes, those are the things that I think about. And I think those are huge secrets of success for us. And importantly, just create an environment of support. Everyone that we aligned with and went into business with, everyone that I work with, we're aligned on values. And it's a culture that breeds collaboration, leadership, and support. And that is also very important because it gives you permission to say, I am going to be successful at this.
Jemila, I know your time is very limited, and I appreciate the conversation with you. You're one of several people I've been having on the podcast who has had a very interesting journey so far. I really like it. Grinding, hustling, going for it, showing the others who you are, and just pushing, but not forgetting where your soul comes from and what basically the universe is giving you for a calling. You call it God, some other people might call it different, doesn't matter.
Right.
And you listen to your heart, you listen to your purpose, and you go for that, and you don't stop. I really like it, and I think you're a very strong inspiration for many people.
Thank you.
To really push through. Is there anything you would like to share with the audience in a couple of seconds? Because I know you have to go.
No, I'm just really thankful, Michael, for this. This was a great platform to really share and talk about everything that we've talked about today. So I want to say thank you for allowing me the space to come on to your show to do that. I've always respected the people, yourself. The questions are always very mind and thought provoking and challenging, but great as well. So again, thank you so much for allowing me on your platform. I'm going to tell everyone out there that life is what you make it. And I know that sounds like a box of chocolates, but it's really not. It really is the truth. When you listen to nursery rhymes, you really listen to nursery rhymes, you realize that it's really about life. And that's why I love nursery rhymes. My favorite is Row, Row Your Boat. Life is but a dream because it is. Life's too short. And so whatever you believe in, whatever it is you're interested in doing, just trust that as long as you keep moving your feet, you'll eventually get there. And it's not going to be easy. You're going to stumble, you're going to fall. But speaking from someone who's fallen and stumbled plenty of times and will probably continue to do as I still find my way around this journey, it's worth it to trust the process. If there are agents out there looking to figure out what this blueprint is and trying to figure out their way around this business called real estate, I have a new system that I'm currently finishing up. It's called Broke to Booked. And the system shows agents who are struggling to reach that $250,000 a year mark to be able to do so within a year, working only 4 hours a day. So if you want to get on the wait list, just go to thebookedsystem.com and get on the wait list, and you'll be one of the first to know. But again, thank you, Michael, for allowing me on. You can find me everywhere. It's just at Jemila Winsey. I believe I am the only Jemila Winsey out there. My husband reminds me every day, so I'm not hard to find.
I will put all the information to the show notes. Jemila, thank you so much. Sending a big hug to Houston,
Thank you.
Texas. And yeah, we talk soon. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. This video is brought to you by HalloCasa. Our tool transforms independent local real estate agents to global real estate agents. Create your own profile for free and get contacted by international investors. Sign up with the link in the description.